juvenile hall was a shithole. Juvenile hall, man, they was up in there gang banging hard. Youngsters up in there, just trying to prove themselves. You had the counselors up in there. They were big ass football players, and basically, they weren't trying to have they weren't really in there, mentoring you. They would kind of be like, shut your motherfucking mouth. You get out of pocket, we're gonna fuck you up. It was pretty raw with it, man. It wasn't really nobody to kind of, pull you in to say, hey, man, you young brothers out there, you need to, why are you doing this? You got this much, you got talent, you could be doing this, or you guys ever thought about trying to go to college? Wasn't nobody telling us none of that. I get out 6 months later. My mom had kind of got involved in a relationship, and so at that point, I go back into my old classes at high school, and I just kind of stay out the way. It was a good thing. My mom ended up getting married after that and moved us out of the neighborhood, and that gave me an opportunity to get the hell out of there, because I probably would have got back into some shit, because I kind of had a reputation at that point, and there was just a lot of negative influence in the neighborhood. I mean, I didn't have anything positive really going on there, and I was due for a change, and so we ended up moving not too long after that, and that's when I moved to Orange County. It was just a very uncomfortable time for those last 2 years, and I felt like I was lost. I was frustrated. I didn't have any direction. I didn't know anything about prepping for college. I didn't know anything about getting ready for life after high school. My mom didn't really give me too much because she was married, and just kind of, I was living with him, but it was like almost like I was on a timer, because when I was 18, I knew it was like basically you get out, without being said. So I didn't, I was just basically floating. I graduated from Huntington, Marina High School in Huntington, and I go back to Sacramento. My mom moves to Boston because my stepdad gets transferred to a military base in Boston, and I moved back to Sacramento. I was probably in Sacramento a month, and we got into it with a bunch of bloods downtown, and fools got stabbed, people were fighting and shit, and then after that, Boys in the Hood came out, we get into it, I get shot at, damn near killed at the movie theater. I mean, it's just a bunch of shit. I went right back to a shithole. So I'm out there, and it's just momentum. People think that you get caught up in something one day. No, it happens over a period of time. You just keep building, bad choice after bad choice after bad choice. And eventually I caught a bad choice. I gave a dude a ride to go do a lick. The lick went bad. We got away, but he ended up telling on me and my other partner. And that led to me doing my first, my first real stint after juvenile hall in YA. I went to California Youth Authority for 2 years, 8 months for a home invasion. And you had dudes in YA that were just, it was this gang bang central. Motherfuckers in there banging hard. I mean, you be in the chow line and somebody would come over the counter on your ass if you was from a rival neighborhood. Dudes were getting stuck. It was, you learned a lot about the north and south type shit, from dudes from down here and dudes from up north. And it was just a lot of bullshit going on. Well, the biggest difference between doing a time in juvenile hall and going to YA was the guys in YA were more criminal career minded, where in juvenile hall you had kids in there, but these guys at this point in YA had kind of taken the next step, and a lot of these guys were basically future penologists. And what I mean by that is these were guys who were going to eventually make a career out of going back and forth to the penitentiary. They weren't really looking to do anything else outside of life besides commit crimes. They had a certain mindset. They had been institutionalized. You had seen there's guys in there who had been in and out 4 or 5 times already, and jail had become a comfort zone for them. They had actually adjusted to the whole structure of the lockdown, the counts, the warden telling you what to do, the structure. And so a lot of these guys, once they went through that program, they were pretty much content on living that type of lifestyle. And why, you seen somebody being, in the shower, get took off on, get beat up in the shower shoes. That's why they tell you always wear your boots to the shower. Motherfucking go into the shower, they catch them slipping, and they take off on them, fighting, and then the guards come and fucking, they try to break it up. I've seen people where, you got one unit over here and they're walking you through to another unit, and the dude sees his enemy, and he hasn't been able to get to him, and he just break. And I mean, the guards they're walking with guards in front and back, and basically these dudes running. It's like probably something from Gladiator, where dudes just running. They just start clashing, and then it kicks off, you know. And it's a lot of just serious gang banging, and a lot of serious things on respect. You know, walking by somebody, not saying excuse me, you know, doing something in the chow hall to like disrespect somebody, or just little things, somebody giving you a fucked up laundry roll, you know what I mean? You get your wig split. Little things are taken out of context to a whole nother degree of violence. You know, people are not playing up in there. You have a disagreement with a dude about something, maybe a Laker game. Okay, let's go back here in the blinds. If you don't go back in the blinds, you're a punk. So you go back in the blinds, you gotta get them up. And it's just, you catching phase all the time. And that's just how, you know, that's just a part of that culture. 21, I was basically, you know, released. Couldn't go back to Sacramento as one of my parole conditions. So I had met a cat up in YA that was from LA. And so I ended up hooking up with him, and we were gonna get a spot together, apartment. And, you know, we had discussed while we were in YA about getting into the porn game. So I'm like, shit, you know, 18, you know, you ain't been around no females. You're looking at all these fiend books in prison. So I'm thinking, man, I'm going to get out and be a porn star. So I ended up moving to Southern California, and I hooked up with him. And I get out here, and I get a job as a bouncer at a club. And then I start looking to try to figure out how I can get into the porn industry. And this is pre-internet. So wouldn't know Google, wouldn't know, you know, Craigslist, Backpage, none of that. And there was the LA Weekly. So I ended up, you know, looking up in the LA Weekly, and I came across an ad, and I eventually got into the porn game. And that was like my hustle, where I was doing bouncing stuff, like kind of security at clubs, and then I was doing porn. And the porn industry back then was like the golden era, man. But I mean, you know, it wasn't no pay. They was only paying guys 100, 150, 200 bucks. But being the fact that I hadn't been around women in so long, and I was playing catch up, get into the industry, and this was 94. Get into the industry in 94. I mean, shit, it was like, you know, you filming at these big houses. They had the big productions back then, you know. Back then, AVN was still major. I mean, there was like, you know, the lines of people going to see these porn girls. It was still glamorous, you know. It was almost like a real production. They had, you know, costumes, makeup, and it was just a lot of stuff. And then, and then you had to work your way in, because, you know, they had different tiers. You had the elite, which, you know, they had the major productions, and they were still shooting on the big video cameras, you know, the old school stuff. And, you know, that was a certain level, and you had to know people, and you know, they only let so many blacks have sex with so many white girls. And then you had the black stuff, which was lowballed, and the blacks weren't really getting paid nothing, but you'd be putting in work. But, you know, you could barely make it. I mean, you know, it was a handful of people that were able to actually live, as far as males, off the porn game. But it was just, the money was a lot different. It was a lot different back then. And, you know, the whole industry was it wasn't as streamlined. And so people's careers back then could last a lot longer, and you had actual stars that were looked at as stars in the porn game. It wasn't a bad time for me. I mean, shit, I have fun, man. I mean, you know, dudes who, you know, complain about, I'm like, dude, that's every man's fantasy. I mean, you look at fiend books, and they have women and all this stuff and enjoy that. I mean, it was something I had a good time doing, but it wasn't something I knew that was going to pay all my bills at the time, because, you know, the producers were making money. I mean, shit, they had 20, 30,000, you know, or 10,000 a film, and they produce, you know, 3 or 4 films a month. They're making 30,000, but you as an actor, you got paid $100, $200, and you were done. And so after you bust your little nut, you know, you better try to bust another one, and you had to try to bust as many as you can to make your bills meet. You can only bust so many, so it wasn't like for the dudes, it wasn't as glamorous. You were a prop. Like the girls, where you got made $100, $200, the girls would make $500, $600. I mean, some of the girls, you know, depending on what kind of scene, you know, $1,500, $2,000, $3,000, you know, and these girls, you know, they had old school fan base where guys were, you know, used to have to write into the fan hotline and stuff. And so these girls, like, you know, they made money, but it's not like Hollywood, where you get residual checks. So your video could go, you know, what they consider viral, but you only got paid that one time.
So is there a lot of pressure about maintaining an erection, being able to bust a certain number of nuts?
Oh yeah, yeah. On the set, man, it's always that person who's on the set who wants to gossip. So they're like, "Oh man, if you got wood problems, they're like, hey man, you all right? You all right?" And they ready to step in. So they got backup. So if you go to the set and they got 2 or 3 dudes in the cut, you know that they hanging out because they trying to get that paycheck if you can't perform. And once it gets out that you can't perform once, then people might be reluctant to book you for another shoot, which now affects your pay, your paychecks. So it was a lot of pressure, man. And there's, like I said, it'd be, on the average, you're looking at 6 people in the room while you're trying to get busy, not including the actors. I did that from 94, 95, and then the cat I was out there with, I think he got into drugs, so I ended up moving back up to Northern California and moved with my mom. They had moved back at this point to the Bay Area and Santa Rosa area, so I moved back with her, left the porn game, and went back to college. And then I figured, what the hell, I'll try college. I still didn't have no direction, so I went to try college and was starting from my AA, and then I ended up getting into the weed game. I met a dude up there who had a weed plug. So I kind of got into slanging weed, and that deterred me once again from college back into the streets. Back then, we was right by Humboldt. My homeboy had a brother who went to Humboldt State. He had a plug, and I'm still on parole from YA, and he would, basically he allowed me he fronted me some weed, and I told him I paid him back, and I gave him the pink slip to my car, and I eventually built his trust up. And then pretty soon I was running 2 or 3 pounds of weed up to Sacramento every week. And I started hustling the weed, and that was cracking. And then it got to a point where I'm making pretty good money. And then my mom gets suspicious. So, I decided to move out because I don't want to cause no drama. And then I moved back to Sacramento, and then I get full blown back into the game, from weed to slinging meth to slinging coke to doing whatever. And so I'm back into the game, doing street shit, and it's just a path leading to nowhere. So I did that for a while, and I eventually knew I had to get out of Sacramento. So it came a point where I kind of did that for a while, and then decided to turn that over to my little brother, and then I went back to LA.
Okay, so now your little brother who you mentioned was like 9 when you went to juvenile hall the first time.
Yeah.
He's in the game now.
He's in the game. He's like probably 5 years younger than me, but always kind of want to be like me. And I used to always try to tough him up, He was a little knucklehead, because he always did stupid shit, but I used to always try to lace him up. And then, when I moved to Sacramento, he was out there doing bad, working at a Boston market. So I we had kind of had a falling out, but I seen him, I'm like, dude, he's like, man, you think you can help me out, blah, blah, blah. So I put him in the game, and eventually got him rolling, and he started making money. So he got his own spot. We got a trap house. He making money. I'm kind of like the muscle. If he had any problems, I regulate, and shit started popping off. So I came to a point where I felt like I needed to transition out of there, and I had met this female and eventually got engaged. So I'm like, let me move out of Sacramento and see if I can get back to LA and try to get into acting and some other stuff, because I knew Sacramento just eventually I was going to get caught up in something.
Thanks for watching StreetGangs.com. Please like and share the video you just watched, and leave a comment below to tell us what you think. You can also watch 2 of our previous episodes to the right. Please visit the link to our Patreon page and support our campaign. And don't forget to subscribe.